The Withdrawal. The marble floors gleamed beneath the bright white lights of the Monarch Financial Building's flagship branch. Morning sun filtered through high glass windows, casting angular beams that danced over the polished surfaces. Behind the counters and desks, employees moved with clinical efficiency, eyes sharp, voices hushed but firm. At precisely 9:15 a.m., a woman stepped through the revolving door. She moved with unhurried grace, a quiet dignity that softened the sharp edges of the room. Her name was Valerie Langston, and though not a single person in the lobby recognized her, she had been here before. Years ago, Valerie had walked these floors as a teller trainee. Back then, she'd worn the crisp navy uniform with its bright gold name badge, standing behind the counter as customers filed past her, some kind, some impatient, others indifferent. She had learned early on that respect was not a guarantee in her world. You had to earn it, and even then, you had to fight to keep it. Now, she stood silently in the lobby, dressed in a plain gray sweater and slacks. Her hair was pulled back into a simple twist, makeup minimal. The handbag on her arm was tasteful but unremarkable. Nothing about her appearance suggested power, influence, or wealth. She had chosen her attire with care. No one in the branch knew that Valerie Langston was the newly appointed CEO of Monarch Financial. 3 months earlier, she had made history, becoming not only the first black woman to lead the century-old institution, but also one of the few women of color to lead any major financial corporation in the country. The board's decision had come after months of deliberation. Some members had voiced concerns behind closed doors, not about her qualifications. Her resume was beyond reproach, but about the bank's image. Would its wealthiest clients accept a black woman as the face of their institution? Valerie had been aware of those conversations. She had heard the whispers, but she hadn't come this far by listening to doubt. She had promised herself that she would lead differently. She would see what others overlooked, listen where others ignored, and act where others hesitated. And so she had come here today, not as their CEO, but as a customer. Valerie took a seat in the waiting area, her posture relaxed, her eyes keen. She watched the patterns unfold in front of her. A young white couple approached the information desk and were greeted with beaming smiles, quickly ushered to a private banker without delay. An elderly black man stood quietly in line for over 15 minutes, only to be told he needed additional identification to cash a government check. A Latina woman was asked to produce 3 forms of ID to deposit a check, while the man in line behind her, wearing a tailored suit, completed a similar transaction in under 2 minutes with a single ID. She watched it happen again and again. Subtle, practiced, dismissed as standard procedure. But it wasn't. At 9:52 a.m., Valerie rose from her seat and approached the teller window. She chose the line with the fewest people, though the difference was marginal. The teller was a young woman named Hannah. She was polite, but her smile faltered the moment she glanced at Valerie. "Good morning," Hannah said cautiously. Valerie smiled faintly. "I'd like to make a withdrawal." She slid her ID, bank card, and a neatly filled withdrawal slip across the counter. The amount, $125,000. Hannah's expression didn't change, but her fingers froze on the keyboard. Her eyes darted to the numbers on the slip and then back to Valerie's face. Then she turned to her left, catching the attention of the senior teller, a man named Daniel Reeves. Daniel stepped closer. He was tall, with an easy confidence that came from years of authority. He glanced at Valerie's documents without touching them. "Ms. Langston," Daniel said, his tone neutral. "That's quite a sum." "It is," Valerie agreed. "But it's within my daily withdrawal limit." Daniel studied her a moment longer before nodding. "Hannah, pull up the account history." As Hannah clicked away, Daniel's gaze remained fixed on Valerie. "We've seen some unusual activity on accounts like this recently," he said. His tone was carefully crafted, implying concern but offering no specific accusation. Valerie kept her expression calm. "What kind of activity?" Daniel didn't answer. Within minutes, the branch manager approached. Her name was Stephanie Wallace. She had worked for Monarch Financial for 15 years and was often praised by the regional directors for her efficiency and professionalism. On paper, Stephanie was everything a bank could want in a leader. In person, Stephanie's professional demeanor faltered as she approached Valerie. "Ma'am," she began, her tone clipped. "There seems to be an issue with your transaction." "There is no issue," Valerie replied smoothly. "I'm making a withdrawal." My identification is in order. My account is in good standing. Stephanie's eyes narrowed. This is a substantial amount. We need to verify the legitimacy of the withdrawal. You have my authorization. You have my identification. Valerie's voice remained steady. What more do you require? Stephanie hesitated, then crossed her arms. We have the right to refuse service if we suspect fraud. A murmur rippled through the lobby. Other customers had begun to watch the exchange, their curiosity piqued by the growing tension. Some whispered. Others stared openly. One of the security guards shifted uncomfortably near the entrance. Valerie took a slow breath. Are you accusing me of fraud, Ms. Wallace? Stephanie blinked, but didn't back down. I'm saying we have to be cautious. You didn't ask the man in the gray suit about his withdrawal, Valerie said evenly. Nor the woman with the Chanel bag. Why is my transaction being treated differently? Stephanie bristled. Those are valued clients. And I am not. No answer. Valerie took out her phone. She stepped slightly away from the counter, but remained within earshot. Good morning, she said into the receiver. This is Valerie Langston. I'm at the downtown branch. We have a situation. There was a pause. Then she spoke again. Yes. Please send Diane to meet me. Now. Stephanie's eyes flickered. Who did you say you were? Valerie turned back toward the counter. I think you'll find out soon enough. The moments that followed were filled with a brittle silence. Stephanie moved to the side, speaking in hushed tones with Daniel. Hannah fidgeted behind the counter, her face pale. At 10:15 a.m., the elevator doors at the far end of the lobby slid open. Diane Maddox, the chief operating officer, strode into the room. Her heels clicked against the marble floor like a metronome counting down to reckoning. Stephanie turned, her face draining of color as recognition dawned. Ms. Maddox, she greeted quickly. I wasn't aware. You wouldn't be, Diane interrupted. She stopped beside Valerie, placing a respectful hand on her shoulder. Ms. Langston, are you all right? Valerie nodded once. I am. Thank you. Diane turned toward Stephanie and Daniel. Do you know who this is? Stephanie's mouth opened, then closed. She looked at Valerie, her expression a mask of disbelief. This is Ms. Valerie Langston, Diane said. Your CEO. The words echoed in the hushed lobby. Daniel's face blanched. Hannah covered her mouth with her hands. A few customers gasped softly. Others whispered. Valerie stepped forward. I came here today to observe how our clients are treated. I came as an ordinary customer, to see if our values are upheld on the front line. She let the silence stretch. What I found was disappointing. The fallout was immediate. Stephanie Wallace, Daniel Reeves, and 2 other employees were escorted from the premises by security within the hour. Their dismissals were swift and without appeal. A formal investigation into the downtown branch's practices was announced that same afternoon. Valerie addressed the entire organization via live stream from the executive floor. Our values are not just words on paper, she said. They are a promise to every client, to every employee, and to every community we serve. Discrimination has no place in Monarch Financial. Not in this building. Not in any branch. Not on my watch. She outlined a comprehensive plan for reform, including anonymous audits, mandatory training, and new oversight committees. Her voice was clear, unwavering. And the message was simple: equality was not optional. Months later, Valerie returned to the downtown branch. This time, the staff greeted her by name. Smiles were genuine. Service was swift. But she watched more than how she was treated. She saw how they greeted the elderly woman with the pension check, how they handled the young man in work boots depositing his paycheck, how they welcomed a Muslim couple opening a savings account. This time, they got it right. And Valerie Langston knew this was only the beginning.